Hello lovelies, my name is Steph and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm doing a little bit of a continuation of a video I made previously that was Do I Regret My Sex Change Operation, which I will link above just now. It will be on the top of the screen right now. There it is, go and check it out if you want to. But in today's video I wanted to do kind of a continuation of that and talk about any kind of transition specific regrets that I had. I've had questions before about any kind of embarrassing moments, about any kind of personal regrets, and I've not really shared those, but I thought a good way to kind of lean into that and to like eventually build myself up to sharing those things would be to start with my biggest kind of transition regrets. But before we get started, please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up if you enjoyed it at the end. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel, click the notification bell, support me on Patreon, all of those important kind of YouTube-y things. There you go. Okay, so kind of jumping straight in, I just wanted to tell you guys that I don't regret my transition in any way. I don't regret becoming a trans person. That is not what this kind of video is about. This video is about anything kind of that I did in my transition that I wish I had done a little bit differently. So let's kind of jump in with the first one, which is the fact that I regret not standing up to my doctors at a young age. So for anyone that's been watching the channel for a while now, you will know that I came out at the tender age of 12, started to transition at 13 and started to see doctors at 14. Because I started to see doctors at 14, there was a lot of questions about whether or not I was serious, whether or not I had the kind of mental ability to make that like really serious choice and things like that. And for a while, I kind of went along with it until I was about the age of 16, 17, and I finally stuck up to them and I was like, look, this is why I came to you, this is what I want, and da 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 da. So it took me 3 years to get to that point. So my first kind of transition regrets is that I didn't have the mental capacity to stand up to my doctors from a really, really young age, and I wish I had the ability to do that, but I wish I could go back and kind of tell my 14-year-old self, like, it's okay to disagree with the doctors, you're here for this, don't let them just focus on that. So yeah, that is probably one of my biggest transition regrets for sure. Okay, so the next thing on my list is something that I regret for certain reasons and I don't regret for other reasons, and that is coming out at secondary school whilst my sister was still in school. Now, there obviously is like a principal argument you can make that, you know, you come out whenever you're ready, you don't really think about things that were happening, but I came out in maybe the last 3 to 4 months of my sister's last year of secondary school, and it hugely impacted our relationship, and I was told not to do it and I decided to do it anyway. I was like, no, I'm being myself, how dare you not accept me? But as an adult, I can see that what was really happening is that they wanted to protect my older sister from the fallout of that, and it really affected who she was at school in those last 4 months, which were really crucial to her. So I don't regret coming out at school and doing it kind of when I did it, but I regret doing it while she was still at school. I could have just waited until year 9. I really wish I had, but I didn't, and it is something I have regretted to this day. It's something that massively impacted my relationship with my sister, so that is one of my other kind of transition regrets. Okay, so another big regret of mine is when I was first prescribed hormones, it took me a really, really long time to take them because I couldn't get prescribed them by my doctors because, you know, transphobia and Cornwall and all of those fun things. I really, really regret not taking my hormones continuously. So I used to really struggle with taking pills when I was kind of an adolescent and when I started getting my tablets, and it's something I look back on with such regret because there is literally no excuse for it. But there were days when I would miss my hormones and it caused my kind of like breast development to slow down. Like I could have, you know, hugely kind of impacted like breast development and my growth and things like that. So something I hugely regret is when I was younger making the decision not to always take my hormones every single day. I'd like miss a day or 2 days or 3 days and then I'd go back to it, and I really, really regret that because the hormones didn't have the full effect that they could have had on me. So, you know, I think that's got to be on my list of one of the things that I regret in my transition. Okay, so next up on my list is something that some of you will probably find a little bit kind of strange. I regret not finishing my transition alone. Now, when I say alone, I'm not talking like without the help of my friends, without the help of my family, but I regret not finishing my transition and filming it myself, because as you guys will know, I invited someone else to film it for me and it didn't work out very well. So I massively regret involving that person in those final kind of moments of my development. I also really regret having a boyfriend during it. Now, don't get me wrong, my boyfriend was amazing at the time and he supported me so well and is an amazing person. I wish him all the best going forwards, but I really wish I had had the strength to have done it myself. I think the fact that I just lost my job meant I was kind of staying in a relationship I wasn't really happy in, and that's kind of how that worked and kind of fed off of that. But I really regret not finishing my transition single, having gone through my transition, like the whole of my transition on my own, being strong through all of it. So that is another regret of mine. Don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change it for the world, and I was so grateful to have family and friends there, but I really wish I hadn't invited the person in that I invited in to film it, and I hadn't been single while I was going through it, because it would have alleviated a lot of like the pressures I put on myself in terms of recovering from my surgery and things like that. So that is definitely a transition regret of mine. Okay, so another transition regret of mine is that I regret not waiting until I had finished my transition to go to university. Now, some people are thinking, but Steph, you shouldn't, you know, have to wait until you're fully transitioned. And I completely agree. You shouldn't have to wait until you've fully transitioned. However, it would be somewhat ignorant to think that not fully transitioning before going to kind of school, university, would have a huge impact on you, because it is your physical body. If you want to have kind of certain university experiences, joining sports teams, going to parties, you know, all of those things like that are gonna pop up. And so it's really kind of important to not go into that blind. And I personally really regret it in terms of not waiting until I'd finished my transition and then going to university, because my being trans was a huge reason as why I kind of dropped out of university and left that kind of chapter behind me. So I really regret not having completed my transition before going to university, which I know is a bit of a juxtaposition because I'm very proud of being trans now and things like that, but I didn't used to be. So it would have made my life a lot easier if I had waited until my gender reassignment surgery to then go to university. Okay, so my next regret, if you have seen the story time, and if you haven't, I will pop it just kind of up there right now, is how much I regret missing an appointment. I missed an appointment at the gender identity clinic because I was overworked and I overslept, and it was something that was completely preventable. I completely blame myself for it, like every single day. So I obviously hugely regret that, because it incurred like a 6-month kind of waiting time and things like that. But I'm glad that when I missed the appointment, I called up so they could offer it to someone else. And I was like, look, I'm not going to be able to make it. And I was desperate, and I went and kind of like sat there. But obviously they couldn't give it to me, but they could give it to someone else. So, you know, it wasn't a total loss in the universe, just to myself and my journey. It was not great. Not great. Okay, so that kind of leads me on to my kind of final 2 transition regrets, and they are linked. I regret living stealth for such a long time and pretending not to be trans for such a long time. I don't know, I was so ashamed of being trans when I was younger that all I wanted to do when I got out of school, and I think it was hugely influenced by the fact that I transitioned in school, but I just wanted no one to know that I was trans. And so I really regret living stealth like as poorly as I did, because I would like tell certain people and not other people, and then it would come out and things like that. So I regret living stealth. And that leads me on to the fact that I regret being ashamed and not being proud of being trans, because for those of you who don't know, I didn't start openly living as a trans person until early 2019, which was not that long ago, considering I've been trans, you know, my whole life. So I think living stealth because of being ashamed and of not being proud are probably my biggest transition regrets, because it hugely impacted my life not just owning it. And it's something I'm really enjoying doing now, but back then I just wasn't ready and open and things like that. So I do regret not having the strength to live openly as a trans person and not having pride in being a trans person. I remember having arguments with people about how not proud and how ashamed I was of being trans, and so it's something that I'm very glad I have learned. Definitely. It is something that I regret not doing sooner. 100%. So guys, those are my kind of generalized kind of transition regrets. If you want any more specifics or things like that, then please do let me know. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to give it a thumbs up and a subscribe and all of those things if you enjoyed it, and I will see you next week for another video. Bye!